Can you believe that there's some people in this world that did not tune in to the Alliance Vlog podcast? Shame on you!
Shame on you. My name is Ella Indy, and I'm one half of the NWA Women's World Tag Team Champion.
And I'm Quincy Page, the other half of the NWA World Women's Tag Team Champion.
And you better go listen to the Alliance Vlog.
What is it called? The podcast. Period.
You're ugly. You're empowered, approved.
Mi gente, you already know who it is. It's the radioactive pop with Danny Limelight, United Wrestling Network World Heavyweight Champion. And make sure you tune into the Alliance Vlog every week. You heard it here first. Straight from Poppy. Are you ready?
Power. You want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!
What we've got here is failure to communicate.
I'm building an alliance.
God bless the internet.
Okay, let's party. It's showtime.
It's time for the Alliance Guys podcast with your hosts Kevin Frazier, Jaden, DKM, and J. Cal.
I always love that bit in the last video there that has Struther Martin doing the Cool Hand Luke bit. Like, that's a nice little throwback. Anyway, what is up, everybody? Welcome to the Alliance Guys podcast.
Jay, you're looking different.
I am. I'm looking very svelte and handsome today. Obviously, Jay not here, and I am a poor substitute filling in for the boss himself.
Did he get another wellness violation?
And of course, the stars of the show, the greatest tag team in podcasting today. It's the giant Jaden and Daisy Kill Mercer. That's what I'm telling everyone DK stands for. Would you care to comment?
I'm just glad somebody else is here so DK and I don't kill the podcast. Again.
Yeah. How you guys been? You ready for the holidays?
Nope.
Well, I'm plotting an axe murder up in Canada at the moment.
Yeah. Fair. It's fair. I've been doing that one for a couple of weeks now. I guess you haven't tuned in, but that's a rumor I'm spreading.
Yeah, I've heard of it, but
I've heard of the Scranton Strangler. What would be the Canadian version?
For the what, sorry?
I've heard of the Scranton Strangler. What would be the Canadian version?
We had Bernardo and Homolka up here. I think down in the States they were primarily called the Ken and Barbie Killers. Terrible. You got, I don't know. You don't want to go into it on this family podcast, I'll tell you that. But
were they at least polite?
is this a family podcast?
This is a family podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the Manson family, maybe.
Yeah.
Or the Addams family.
Exactly. Lots of guys in the chat here right now. Mike was here earlier. Don't know if Media Mike's here right now, but taking off for New York City. Happy Merry Christmas to you, Mike. Willie Bowen, of course. I'm awaiting the first Tyrus joke of the day.
Does it have to be from Willie Bowen?
No, go for it.
I wonder if Santa practices going around the world by going around Tyrus.
Uses the gravitational pull a la Star Trek style.
Yeah, it's how he goes back in time.
Nice. Matthew Underwood's here. Good to see you again, my friend. And our brother in pod, Championship Wrestling from Jeremy. And please, if you feel so inclined, please like and share with your friends. We have started. Have you guys seen the numbers recently for the Alliance Guys podcast and the Alliance blog overall? Like they're right in that YouTube start of the snowball where you look at the numbers for subscribers every few weeks and it's gone up by several hundred. So it's pretty neat. It's great to have that kind of momentum.
It's nice to know so many people are masochists and sadists out there.
Or the sadist and masochist.
Noob and Co is here. I'm doing fine. Hope you're well. Willie says, guys, the Immortals are the best tag team in the Lightning One era. What do you think, DK?
No.
Not even close for my money. What do you think, Jaden?
I like the Immortals. They're
Yeah.
probably the best U.S. tag team champs, and I did like the Fixers, but I don't think they're the best tag team in the Lightning in One era.
Yeah, I got to give that to La Rebellion.
It'd probably be La Rebellion, and then followed by Jim Cornette and Bad Chicken Jokes.
That's a tag team. That's like every once in a while I hear him talk about that on one of the podcasts. Like, I told a 35-year-old joke, and I think it was you who put up Jaden, who put up the link to that one from a few years ago, a while ago from his podcast.
Yeah, I looked through the Discord, which I'm sure somebody will put the link to the Discord in the chat somewhere. And I didn't see it listed in there, and I thought, it popped up on my thing, so I would share it.
Yeah. Do the Briscoes count? Well, not in the Lightning One. Well,
They weren't there long enough. They were the greatest tag team talent-wise, but maybe not the greatest tag team booked and or used well-wise or even longevity. Because I also did like the tag team of Davey Boy Smith Jr. and I liked him so much that his name completely left my head right now. But
Doug Williams.
Yeah, Doug Williams. But again, talent-wise, they were great, but I wish they were there longer and more effectively.
So if we can't have the Briscoes, then Matthew Underwood's vote is Eli Drake and Jimmy Storm.
Jimmy Storm.
Good old Jimmy.
Good old Jimmy Jam Storm.
That's right. What are we going to talk about tonight, guys? We got the Iron Claw movie came out, and I know you saw that, Jaden. And
yes.
Well,
do you want to say that now, or do you want to do that later?
Let's go straight into it. Why not? It's you went and saw it today?
Yep, it's out a little early in my theater. It's supposed to technically comes out tomorrow, but they did a early release at my theater. I was one of 4 people in the theater, so I was a little disappointed in that. Well, I'm gonna have a spoiler free where in the movie the Von Erichs die, most of them. So there's a little spoiler there. Honestly, though, it started off fine. It started off okay. The main problem I had, it was a lot of them, but there's actually, I can't even say it's the main problem, but it felt like somebody wrote the script based off of a bad Wikipedia article on the Von Erichs.
I was afraid of this, and we're going tomorrow, the Reluchador and I, so do tell.
You sure you want me to go?
Yeah, man. Do it. Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I kind of know what happens.
The wrestling felt like a Hollywood rendition of what somebody in Hollywood thinks wrestling is like. And it really made me upset because I know Chavo Guerrero was the wrestling expert that helped them do that. And I find now that he also did it to Glow. It just feels like somebody's bad interpretation of what wrestling is. And it felt, the story of the movie itself felt like a person who learned everything about wrestling by reading the internet in 2023 and not actually somebody who was there or could understand what wrestling was like. One of the earliest things in the movie was the debut of David Von Erich. And again, this whole thing's spoiler. So if you don't want to hear it,
give us 10
the
minutes
movie and come back and make, comment and subscribe. All right.
Yeah.
I have no idea when I'm going to shut up, so I'll just keep going on. So spoiler alert. But the movie really truly started with first they started off with showing Fritz Von Erich in black and white doing the Iron Claw and the German gimmick. And then they were talking about the family, where there was Kevin and David were there and Kerry was in the belly. And they were talking about how they really needed to make something and how he wanted to be NWA World Champion, Fritz being, and how important that was, and how that was going to, once he was NWA Champion, they couldn't take anything away from him. They were going to be successful. The biggest focus of the story was the NWA World Heavyweight title for a good portion of it. That was the thing, the MacGuffin that everybody wanted to accomplish and everything. And that's true with, I'm sure, with both Fritz and all his children. But that was the focus for the earliest part of most of the part of the movie. So when David debuted, they're back in the back calling the match with Gino Hernandez and Bruiser Brody. I can't ever remember Gino Hernandez and Bruiser Brody teaming. They made Gino Hernandez about the size of Jimmy Garvin, and that's kind of who initially I thought it was when I saw the preview of it. They did Bruiser Brody wrong. They barely did Gino Hernandez at all. He was almost a non-factor. And the debut of David was the biggest thing. And immediately you could tell that David was going to be the golden child based on the way they pushed the movie. Even though it was the story of Kevin Von Erich, the way they pushed the story, you could tell that David was the one that was the golden child and had the charisma and personality that Kevin didn't have. And immediately when they're calling the match in the back, it kind of was like it took me away. But the early part of the movie was the best part, when they were talking about the Von Erichs and talking about Kerry doing the Olympics and Kerry and the president boycotting the Olympics in Russia and all the other things that were going on. That was the best part of the movie.
Okay.
One of the things that really annoyed me was Kevin's wife, played by Lily James, was talking about wrestling being fake, and I didn't like the way they handled that. I don't believe Kevin Von Erich would ever even admitted anything that he admitted in the movie about the way wrestling was to his wife. He was too in love with the business, and he wanted, to make his father happy. It was always, anybody knows that he was probably the one brother who wanted to make his father the happiest. And that's the other crux of the movie too, is Kevin wanting to make his father very, very happy and to be the good Von Erich. The one thing I did like about it is when he was telling Lily James' character about Jack Jr. dying, he made it seem like she said you had older brother syndrome, and he's like, well, I'm not the older brother. It really came to the fact, because he kept talking about how much he just loved being with his brothers, that was the crux of why he loved being with his brothers so very much, because he lost his older brother very young, and he just wanted to be there and take care of his brothers from that point forward. I think I like that. And then there was the David and Kerry debut, and that was, David and debut with Kevin, and that was all right. And it was kind of obvious that they were pushing Kevin from the start. And then they brought in Harley Race. And while the Harley Race actor did a very good Harley Race promo, in the ring, he just didn't look right. I don't think they picked the right actor in the ring to do it, or it wasn't scripted right, or wasn't choreographed right. And I hate to use those words about wrestling, but I just didn't like the actual in-ring Harley Race part. But the promo was surprisingly good that he cut the promo out there. And that match led to Kevin dropping the ball, and then David was getting the spotlight because he came out and tried to cut a promo with Kevin, and it couldn't get it out. And then David just did, and you could see right away, like, David's being shot to the moon from that point forward. And that Kevin always gets, throughout the entire movie, treated like he's the failure of the family, and he gets all these opportunities, and he's the one that's trying hardest to get his father's love, and in reality, he's getting shit on all over. That's what the big message is out the movie too. And honestly, when Kerry debuted, everything was great. They had this thing where Mike was playing guitar, and he started playing Tom Sawyer in the background while Kerry's working out. They transitioned to them versus the Freebirds, and that was just amazing. Like, there was energy there. You could feel that, and I was like, okay, this is really getting good. And the Freebirds, again, were more of an afterthought. They were barely even really of any significance or anything into it.
From the mere moment or two that they were in it, how did Mason and Pierce do?
Actually, all three of them did well. I think Mason did best, followed by the guy who played Buddy Roberts.
Right. I don't know who that is.
Yeah, either do I, but he did. I think he did a very good Buddy Roberts. Again, it was in there, and then they do the promo with David in there and talking about being the next NWA champion, and you can see the Kevin's jealous and didn't handle it well.
Right.
And it was, it was building up and it was okay until the David scene, and it just kind of got brushed over. There wasn't any. You were supposed to feel sad. You're supposed to feel heartbroken. You're supposed to feel like Kevin was feeling this on him, and it just didn't have that emotional impact. And then it just really went down from that point forward. Every few scenes, it just got worse and worse and worse.
Oh.
The introduction to Lance Von Erich was like barely anything, and you don't even see MJF at all, really. And then it's just kind of like a brief, like, blink and you miss it type thing. And the only thing they came across is it made it seem like he was trying to be the big star, and he was trying to overshadow and everything like that. It just, it was barely. It was a point that it really and honestly didn't even need to be in there. And
Danny Flamingo, Scooby says, by the way.
Danny Flamingo. He did a very good job. Yeah. I think he was convincing Buddy Roberts,
right? Especially
when later they have him wearing the headgear. I hated the fact that the World Six-Man titles they used were the Jim Crockett version.
Yeah.
I hated the Texas belts. It looked like it did not look right. I hated. I love the NWA belt. The NWA belt they did. I don't think it's a true belt. It looks different. I have to relook in, but I know it has a slight variation to it. But I like the way it looked. I hated when they later brought in the big gold. It just looked like a replica shit. It was horrible looking. But the 10 pounds of gold, the classic NWA Dome Globe, looked actually really good. In fact, better. I do really like the way that one looked. So belts wise, that was the only belt that was, if anything, of significance that I really liked. But it just got worse, and it kept going worse. And then the Mike getting hurt in the ring, the way they handled that, I didn't like it. And Mike training, I didn't like it, and I didn't like how the scene with Kevin taking the blame for Mike getting hurt and the toxic shock syndrome and the shoulder surgery. It was just so rushed through and not impactful at all. So you didn't feel when, you didn't feel the fear and stuff of him having that fever. It just was brushed over in like 4 lines.
Right.
Now the actor did a very good job in the post after he got out of the coma, portraying that he was no longer 100% there. And they did a scene where he was trying to play the guitar, and it was obvious too, right before Mike's suicide. But they brushed over it. It just didn't have the impact. You're supposed to feel Kevin's hurt, and it was just too soon. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't impactful enough.
You're on mute, DK.
Of course I am. Did they do the car accident with Mike?
No. They did not do the car accident with Mike. But one thing that drove me nuts too is they went right from Kerry winning the NWA World title at the Parade of Champions to him losing his foot. They made it basically seem like he won the title, went out on a motorcycle, and then got in the accident. Like immediately.
It just seems like there's too much story here for them to have wrapped up in 2 hours and 10 minutes.
There was a lot of story. There is a lot of story. Anybody knows the story.
Yeah.
But it was everything was pushed over. And there was some scenes that were like real long and drawn out. And then there's everything about the deaths and the injuries and the accidents and everything else was just so pushed over. It was the actor, again, who played Kerry did a good job. All the actors did a good job. I think the one I was most disappointed with was Zac Efron playing Kevin, but I don't blame him as the acting. I blame both because he had the most to do in the movie, but I don't think the writing and directing was done right for him. So I don't blame him for that because he had the most to do. He had the most that just didn't work. But again, I don't blame the actor. I don't think it was his fault. I think it was the story's fault.
Jeremy Allen White was which one was he?
He was Kerry.
He was Carrie.
Yeah.
So weird to me. Okay.
I didn't like the fact that he's so much smaller, both muscular and size-wise.
Yeah.
But he did a good job.
He's a good actor.
If they could have used some CGI to make him taller, he would have been. It would have been a very good Carrie.
Yeah.
None of the brothers did bad. I actually think David, the actor who did David, did the best of the brothers. But it was very rushed over, and nothing had impact. Nothing had gravitas. Nothing had feeling post the winning of the 6-man belts when coming out with to Tom Sawyer. Everything else just started going down, but it really started going down after the death of, and every death after that just had less and less impact. DK does not want to smile because he's heard about this, just like kind of like I think I am too.
It would have been better as a mini series, maybe.
Yeah, if it was a TV show, 10, 12 episodes, 13 episodes, an entire series, like they did David in like season 1 and Mike in season 2 and the Kerry accident in season 3. I think it would have been awesome. That's how that should have been done. But that was a movie. There was no time for. It's kind of like watching shitty spot monkey wrestling where there's this thing, all this stuff, and you see all these flips, but nothing has time to really absorb. It's the same thing. It's just like nothing really had time to hit and be emotional.
That's a bummer.
And I really, really wanted this movie to be great.
Yeah.
Yeah, DK.
I'll be honest. Jaden and I were talking about this earlier, and I was like, I don't know that this is something that I would want to watch as somebody who lived it down here. I mean, people don't understand what it was down here, what they were down here. They'll never understand.
Right.
Yeah.
And,
I love the Von Erickson. I love watching it, but I didn't grow up in Texas. I can't imagine how much impact that had for everybody in Texas.
And all their deaths, especially David's. I mean, by the time Kerry, we kind of knew. And Chris was out, and I guess Jaden said Chris isn't even in the movie.
Not even acknowledged, yeah. Jack had more of an impact in the movie than Jack Jr. had more of an impact. Well, the Chris had none, 0, because he wasn't mentioned or even cast.
Really?
Yeah.
And, Chris's suicide is really kind of what led to Kerry's. And they actually shot themselves with the same pistol.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah. Chris in the head and Kerry in the chest.
And if I remember, they said it in the movie, but I think it actually is factual. It was a gift from Kerry to Fritz, the gun.
Kind of makes me wonder, like, if someone follows through on the terrible act of suicide with a handgun, that's going to be confiscated by the police. How do you get that back? That seems like something that,
it's not illegal.
Really, they did.
I mean, they'll take it in as
evidence, yeah.
Evidence, but then it just gets released.
I guess, yeah.
And what I was saying, telling you, that was all of it was devastating.
Yeah.
And especially David and then Mike. Although Mikey, we understood. Chris was a shock, but he had never, the Von Erichs were already over by the time Chris came along. And, Kerry, because of the news of the drugs and everything like that, we were almost expecting it.
Yeah.
But it was still just something that was so devastating that, I told Jaden, I don't really want to relive any of that. I lived it the first time. It was very hard. I don't want to go back and live it again.
Yeah. I don't know if I was trying to think when you first said that, like, what can I compare that to for me? I don't think I've got one. Like, that's your backyard, and those guys are rock stars in the way that, doesn't exist anymore.
Well, and I had met Kerry, and, it was just, and I had seen all of them wrestle except for Mike. I mean, except for Chris.
Right.
I had seen all of them wrestle in person. And I was there when Kerry won the title, and, just everything. It was just, people really don't understand. And there's no way it can come across on TV, and there's no way it can come across, in a movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, just the godlike status they held here. So,
did Chris ever wrestle, guys?
Kind of.
Yeah, very short period of time.
Like his first match was against Percy Pringle.
Oh.
He had a asthma problem, and his medication not only caused his size to be much smaller, but his bones to be very brittle.
That's got to be tough.
Yeah, he broke his arm, I think even his elbow, doing an elbow drop from the top or something. And basically he was told then he should never wrestle again. His arm was probably going to be disfigured from it. And the funny thing was he was the one that looked like Kerry.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And he was the one probably out of all four of them that wanted to be the wrestler the most.
Yes. In fact, again,
Five of them.
When Jaden and I were talking earlier, I said, it's almost a shame that in some ways he and Mike weren't reversed. Because Mike didn't really want to be a wrestler. I mean, I think he was willing to do it at first. And I think, he was kind of being the background and learning and not he was going to kind of be the Buddy Roberts of the Von Erichs. And, David's death changed all that.
Right.
And so, but he was happy to play his guitar. He probably would, if left to be his own, he probably would have been a musician.
I think too, if I remember correctly, DK, and if you can correct me if I am wrong, he loved the production side of it too. And he was more interested in what the television version side was than the actual wrestling side.
He was more interested. I don't know how much, but yeah, he was certainly far more interested in the behind the scenes thing. And but he didn't have a wrestling mind.
It's a shame that there wasn't an environment for him to maybe for a couple of them to pivot. Like does the movie tell what the story, Jaden, that we all kind of heard about how Fritz is driving them to, like, all of them towards this same end?
He's a heel in the entire movie. He is very, very unlikable. And the actor did a great job. He looked like Fritz, and he had a lot of Fritz mannerisms down. And again, I think where the script is more, and the directing is more at fault than the actual acting. But he was the heel all the way through. He was very unlikable, and so was Doris, unfortunately.
Yeah.
She was very well. I remember hearing how well she was liked by a lot of people, but she didn't come. The actress in the story didn't come across that way. In fact, like I said, Doris was a heel throughout, and Fritz was the ultimate heel throughout.
How was Doris the heel? I'm curious because you can't be down here and not hear things for stories, but I'm curious as to how they were portraying her as a heel.
They've made her as very religious, and made her, she was, but they also made her as in instead of a loving mother, she was a follower of Fritz's philosophies of the boys need to take care of their own problems themselves. You don't show emotion. Like they brought in early where Kevin's concerned about how hard Fritz is on Mike, and they need to do something about it. And she seemed more worried about looking good for church and having the right outfit for church, and how late they were going to be, and that the boys need to handle it themselves. That's what they're for.
How rich were the Von Erichs? Just out of curiosity.
Promoter wise, they were very wealthy once the territory really got hot. The Texas territory, if I remember correctly, the Dallas territory wasn't super big under the auspice of Fritz von Erich until the explosion of talent and the explosion of the Von Erichs and stuff. Like the Von Erichs were always over, but they weren't rockstar over until just prior to the Freebirds, if I remember correctly. Am I right, DK?
Yeah. 81 is when they kind of started getting that. Well, really, the arrival of Kerry, and but that's when that's when wrestling in general started to change a little bit into that 80s younger people. I mean, remember, most wrestlers didn't hit it big until they were in their 30s. And so, this Tommy Rich was kind of a thing, a weird thing that he got over so big at such a young age. And then with the TBS going nationwide, where, he became just every woman's dream. Well, when Kerry kind of came along, I think Fritz had seen what was going on with Tommy, and he kind of figured his boys could fit that role, because they had actually tried to get the boys booked elsewhere without a lot of success, that go in places short, for a quick run, except for when David got mad at Fritz and left for Florida. And he was there, and he was there for 6 or 7 months. And, but yeah, kind of when they all got back together, and he decided to do world-class championship wrestling, the arena wrestling, and more competitive matches, at least for the main event. And he saw that his sons could fit in. See, and then when they could fill that role, and then when Gary Hart found the Freebirds, that worked perfect for them.
I've always heard, even though David got credit, I always heard it was Kevin that suggested them to use Michael Hayes and Terry Gordy. Is that true, DK?
Yeah, because Kevin had teamed with Michael Hayes. He was actually in a tag team match with Michael Hayes against Jimmy Snuka and Terry Gordy.
Terry Gordy, yeah, that was the feud. I remember they were both wearing boots, and it threw me off. Both Snuka and Von Erich were wearing boots.
They actually had the match on TBS, and then that was one of the things they took around the circuit. Then was that thing, and so I guess Kevin told Gary about it and said we should bring them in. He goes, they'll make a good team. So Gary, who also had been in Georgia managing Kabuki and knew about them and things like that, so he went and talked to them. And if you watch Georgia Championship Wrestling about the time, that was right after the Freebirds lost the national titles to the Samoans. And the storyline was that Michael Hayes got hurt by the Samoans, and so he disappeared. And so Terry Gordy was actually teaming with Tito Santana for a while. And then Michael called Terry and said, hey, you need to come to Texas. And, call Buddy, and we need to get him down here too. And so, yeah, that was all Gary's thing. And then Fritz almost blew it when Gary quit. But Gary told the Freebirds to stay because they were going to quit with Gary Hart.
Right.
And Gary told them, no, you stay. You guys can make a lot of money here.
There was a time where the only thing that was taken in any way, shape, or form acceptable against the Von Erichs was the Great Kabuki. He was the only thing holding on the heel side. And they even neutered King Kong Bundy by having him fight against Fritz in Fritz's retirement match, and just basically made him very ineffective for bad booking.
Mm.
And it was Kabuki that was the only thing that was considered a serious threat. And one thing that also really bugged me is it didn't even in any way, shape, or form bring up the Flair versus Kerry steel cage match with the Freebirds or anything. That was completely not even glossed over. All of a sudden, the Freebirds were in the ring and defending the 6-man belts against the Von Erichs, and then that was it. There was one more scene later with the Von Erichs, but that was it.
So how did they wrap it up, and how many stars in the end you end up giving it?
They wrapped it up right soon after Kerry's suicide. That was the worst death of them all. It was the one that had the most time, but it was easily the worst one done. Oh. And it just it was soon after that they basically wrapped it up with Kevin crying and his boys. He apologized to his boys because men don't cry, and they're like, "Why we cry all the time? And why are you crying?" He's like, "Well, I spent all my life as a brother, and I'm not a brother anymore." And they kind of butchered that line because the line was always, "I always spent all my life as a big brother, and now I'm not even a brother." Mm. Just the way they did the line, it just again it lost impact, and they said, "Oh, I'll be your brother," and then they kind of just started playing the music. He was happy and having playing football with them. And then they showed some pictures of Kevin and the family in Hawaii and stuff like that, and said like they won the WWE Hall of Fame or in the Hall of Fame, and it was as close as I get. You're going to get to a happy ending to that kind of movie. Honestly, 1.5 stars.
Yeah, not quite an average film then.
It had potential. You can see that there's some bare bones things out there. There's a few moments where you get a little bit of that excitement, but it just was not sustainable at all. And that it just really wasn't. And the problem with Kevin too is, again, I consider this bad writing and bad directing. I don't blame the actor, but he goes from being likable to unlikable to sympathetic to not sympathetic. They talked about everything was wrong about Kerry going to the WWF and them. It was well after they started saying Kevin was running the business and running it into the ground, and he was selling to Jerry Jarrett, and that was the timeline was wrong with everything. The only thing that came, Jerry Jarrett came off well, the character they had for him for the few seconds. But, it was just funny because I know Kevin really didn't like Jerry Jarrett. So that's always weird. I found that the most interesting. But yeah, nothing really came well. Nothing at all. Just other than brief moments of greatness, it just was a real disappointment. 1.5 stars.
1.5. All right. Now I don't want to see it so much. But I'll probably still go. How often do you get it?
One of those that you kind of have to see, isn't it?
Kind of, yeah. I was
going to say, like saying a Dave Dahl match. It's so bad you just have to say it.
Which one?
A Dave Dahl match.
Oh, Dave Dahl. I've seen a Dave Dahl match.
Exactly. It was so bad you had to say it.
But it's, as long as it doesn't, it can't be any worse than Grumpy Cat's Christmas thing.
I didn't see Grumpy's Cat Christmas, so I can't give it an honest comparison.
Dave Dahl had 2 flag bearers when I came there. 2 seconds that came with him to ringside. I forget their names, but yeah, it was an experience.
Yeah.
He
needed 2 flag bearers because they needed more than one flag to cover his body.
That's very true.
Oh man.
Alliance Gold guy. You, Tim, I think's your name.
That's my name. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. How may I help you, sir? So happy to be here.
So, I want your opinion on something.
Yeah.
Because since all wrestling in the world affects NWA in some shape or form,
Yeah.
I want your opinion on TKO settling with MLW and giving them some pocket change to pocket change to TKO, but much valued
To Cole Power.
Yeah, to Bauer. So, what are your thoughts on this, and will it make a difference in MLW at all?
Well, arguably, because I don't know the details, but it might have made a difference already, right? Because they've been able to bring on Matt Riddle. I'm not saying that's the move of the century, but it was announced shortly after that settlement was done, and maybe they could have earmarked the money that they're getting for that to replace whatever it is they're paying Matt Riddle. I thought the most interesting thing about it for me was that it was a bit of a surprise until you think about it that they gave them any money at all. Traditionally, it was a surprise, I think, in a way, because traditionally the WWE would just, let that stuff drag out for long periods of time. But I think that it's now that there's a TKO, they're called, right? The
TKO is the parent company.
Yeah, I think it's probably just what is this about? I throw some money at them and make it go away, and we don't, if Vince cared, I doubt that whoever's running TKO cared. I doubt even like Nick Khan cares. So it was an interesting perspective that like the answer to those type of things has changed. The reaction that they actually kind of got their payout. Will it make a difference in the end to MLW? Not one little bit, I don't think. And I like MLW. I like the product that they've got there.
Do you feel MLW is well booked? Just curious. That's just my curiosity.
So they have like anywhere, a limited roster. It's smaller than the NWA's, but they've got some great talents. Like on the 24th, they've got Holiday Rush on YouTube on Christmas Eve. And they've got Jacob Fatu versus Alex Hammerstone. That's pretty good. They've also got the Second Gear Crew, which are the World Tag Champs. But again, neither I think the one called Manders or Matthew Justice are well known. And they're defending against Alex Kane and from the Beaumont Fight Club, right? Their world heavyweight champion, who isn't well known either. So I think that their roster is limited in the sense that they have only a few names that are, I think, that are known, like Matt Cardona's a mercenary there from time to time. So is it well booked? I mean, I like what they're doing right now with, in a way, with Beaumont Fight Club taking on, I'm going to forget the name, but Jeremy's in the chat. He can help me. I think it's booked okay, but they still have problems with not having names beyond a few, and they have problems with booking heel groups against heel groups, which is, not my favorite.
I don't know why that's become so popular in wrestling.
Well, you look at like even this past Power, Southern Six versus Miserably Faithful, although arguably Gags and Salvation now are probably baby faces in that group. But it like nobody in Florida knew who to cheer for. Crowd was dead. So I don't get it either.
But it's not just them. It seems in the indie world.
World Titan Federation.
Right.
Yeah.
It seems like in the indie world, heel versus heel has become extremely popular, and I don't know why. And in even AEW did that some, but they typically turn somebody long enough to make them a heel or a face outside of outside of what they were beforehand. And then if they don't like it, they just turn them back.
Yeah.
Which is almost as bad. I don't know, Jaden, you know people on the indie scene. Why has heel versus heel become so popular?
Because people don't understand the actual basis of wrestling, and because many people in this industry believe that the whole heel face dynamic is passe, and too many people think that wrestlers should have layers, but then don't know how to actually book layers into them. So it's honestly, it's people don't understand the whole basis upon wrestling, and then the Attitude Era kind of ruined it with tweeners. But yeah,
I mean, look, we were talking about the Von Erichs and the Freebirds, and of course another group that was there at the same time was Devastation Inc. And at one time, the Freebirds started battling Devastation Inc. And it was like, yeah, that was heel versus heel, but one team was more heel than the other.
Yeah.
Not only that, but they all wanted to cheer the Freebirds. They just couldn't cheer them against the Von Erichs.
Exactly.
And in some cases, Iceman King Parsons, who was also very, very popular.
Right.
Well, this took me a second to get. Sorry to cut you off. 89% on Rotten Tomatoes is what that movie's got right now. Sorry about that. Anyway.
Yeah, but isn't Rotten Tomatoes, is it the Rotten Tomatoes score on the so-called movie experts, or is it the Rotten Tomatoes score on the people who actually saw it?
I assume
they often go completely opposites.
Yeah, I agree. Sometimes the critics hate it, and it's 100% from the people who watch it. So,
but anyhow, I was curious as to your thoughts in general on MLW. I still struggle watching it. I haven't watched it that much since Hammerstone lost the title. And where do you think Hammerstone's going to end up?
Well, it was kind of a neat swerve. He said he wanted his release and that he'd been granted his release. And then he signed, using the air quotes, with WTF, the World Titan Federation, which is a stable inside MLW. So I assume that they're going to, as Lou says, Fatu's W for a Holiday Rush is already written in ink. So I assume that they're going to use him and abuse him a little bit and then send him on his way. I have no idea where he's going to end up.
Yeah, he's basically stated he's a free agent in January.
There you go.
Yeah. What I like about MLW, I used to be a big fan in the 2018-19 MLW. That's when, to me, it was its absolute peak. Things were a lot better booked, done well, and everything like that. I haven't liked it post-pandemic at all. I didn't like it during the pandemic at all. But one thing the MLW always did well is they've taken other people's trash and turned it into treasure.
Yes.
Leo Rush was used very well in MLW. I can't remember the guy's name. I know he left NXT because they didn't like the gimmick. They gave him smiling black guy, and they gave him the T-shirt that he thought was racist.
ACH.
Yeah, ACH. They used him well. Surprisingly, they used Austin Aries. They got the most out of him that of anybody who's used him post Ring of Honor. They've used people that are considered damaged goods, and then they also use people that people don't know. Brian Pillman Jr. was only known because of his name, and they used him well. They used Teddy Hart until he completely imploded. They used Davey Boy Smith very well. They used Fatu well. They used MJF well. They found things to be able to use well and get the most out of them, and I think they've used that to their advantage. Right now, though, with AEW and NWA and Impact and WWE and NXT, things that people they were able to get well and using as their only true place to get noticed. There's so many other places nowadays. It's harder for them to draw, especially with the reputation of they sign people to really low contracts and hold them, hostage. That makes it a lot harder for them, I think, to get talent they want, or at least the talent they want locked up.
The one of the things they do on top of that, I think, is they produce very well. They produce television very well. And I think you can probably hide, not being a television producer, but you can probably hide a certain portion of your, your product if you haven't got all of the T's crossed and I's dotted, with really good TV production. And like MLW looks good. It doesn't look like a cheap, indie. But one of the things I think probably where you're leading with this, DK, is that we had that long list of wrestlers that got released right on the 21st of September, I guess. So 3 months ago today, the 90-day clause that everybody's a free agent. And some of them could end up in MLW. Others, arguably, maybe a little further down the list to NWA, or some of them, maybe even AEW. It's not so much written in stone now, I don't think, as it was even just a few months ago. You guys want
There's places for them to work, and the people that want to work will find places to work. Big Chris Dog, the so-called heel of the NWA. You don't like him because he's the bad guy.
The villain.
By the way, that's somebody playing a gimmick. He calls himself the villain. I love you, Big Chris Dog, but that's your gimmick. You ain't a real villain. You're just playing that as your gimmick. So anyone who's mentioned somebody's gimmick, Big Chris Dog's villain role is definitely his gimmick. But he mentioned that. Oh crap! What's the kid's name? I just lost it. The rest he just said was wrestling 20 different places. Mustafa Ali.
Oh, Mustafa Ali. Okay.
Yeah, he's already got like 20 bookings out there. That's great. He's a talented kid. I call him a kid. Everybody's compared to me as a kid, and compared to DK, they're all babies. Exactly. But he's very talented. I always did see something in him. I don't think he's going to be the one person that a company could sign like the NWA that will really bring him right to the stratosphere. But I think he would be a useful addition to the NWA or MLW or Impact or AEW or wherever he ends up. Well, probably not AEW, but it's nice. They're going to be out there. They're going to have, if they care to be out there, they're going to be out there. I heard Top Dolla just got booked.
Yeah, he did. He got booked in UWN or Memphis anyway, which is kind of sort of UWN. It is, but it never advertises itself as such. But Memphis.
Yeah, I think they see themselves as their own thing. I think they do it. I think they do what they want, and they're willing to accept the UWN label.
Yeah, but it's funny because they don't have the UWN logo like Derby and I guess the Marquez Productions do, but it's funny. But yeah, he just signed. He's going to make an appearance down. Let's go through that list. So that's Mustafa Ali. I think it's important when we talk about it. It's like, hey, do we want these guys in the NWA or do we see them as better fits elsewhere? Especially when it comes to the NWA, which I lovingly call AAA ball, right? Let's see what let's say what it is. Is it realistic that some of these names could end up in the NWA or any of the other places? So we got Mustafa Ali. You mentioned Top Dollar. Assume that he's going to be a mercenary for a while. Would you guys want him in the National Wrestling Alliance? And if so, could you see him there?
No, and no.
No.
Well, Billy Corgan, I don't understand. With Billy Corgan, anything's plausible.
Yeah. You guys got no love for Top Dollar.
I don't think he would be what the NWA should be going after. That's not anything against him. I'm sure Dog, if he lived, I don't know where he lives, but if he lives close to Dog, they might use him. He could be drawn. I just don't think the NWA could get the maximum out of him.
Yeah. DK?
Really don't know enough about him as a non-WWE wrestler.
Right.
Of course, man, after he was brought back with Hit Row. And they were talking like, oh, this was the guy they were far more interested in than Swerve. Which it's a crazy thought, and I'm not even the biggest Swerve fan. But he didn't look good. And so then the question is, did WWE not use him right or what? And of course, when he blew that one dive.
Yeah.
Apparently, it saved his life, though. That blowing of the dive. He found out he was diabetic and he was going through a huge type 2 diabetic. He was going through a sugar rush. And that's why he said he hit that dive multiple times. And he was at the point where if he would have continued, they could have lost his legs, could have lost his life. And from what I just looked up, he actually had no independent wrestling career beforehand. He was an NFL football player.
Yeah. So I don't know. Remember we were talking about Mike Knox one time, and we said now that they've established him in the NWA, and he's the reason for being there, and he's part of this tag team, and he's been around. Now I don't mind Mike Knox. But when Mike Knox first came in, it was like, why are they,
who?
Why are they treating him the way they're treating him?
Yeah.
And I kind of feel like Top Dolla, or I don't know what he's going to go by in wrestling, I guess AJ
Francis.
AJ Francis. I don't know that, because who knows that name?
Yeah.
So
probably people who watch football.
That's who's going to know his name. And it's going to be like, oh, it's AJ Francis. And people are going to go, who? And he looks familiar. He kind of looks like that Top Dog, But assuming he still looks basically the same. Again, I haven't seen him recently. But
you call him number one De Niro.
Yeah. And you can bring him in, but he's somebody who you're going to have to establish. He's not somebody who Jaden, you're not smiling enough. And I don't make the rules.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things. So what do we do with bring him in? I don't know that he's ever going to be a big wrestling star.
Is he going to draw any money?
He's going to bring in Top Dollar. What are you talking about? Probably going to demand Top Dollar too.
So a guy could see fitting in the NWA is Elias. What about you guys?
DK, you first.
Again, the problem is I don't know Elias outside of his WWE.
Do you have to, though? I mean, that's what everybody knows him as, right?
Well, no, but what I'm saying is I don't know. Elias in his WWE characters aren't going to work well in NWA. And not that you can't modify him or do something. But again, I don't know what type of wrestler he is. Now, when he first appeared, and he was first in NXT, and he was first doing stuff as Elias, I thought he looked like he had some skill and some ability and stuff like that. And so I honestly don't know that, with the exception of Ziggler and Benjamin, that any of the guys released are going to do anything for you, but you're going to they might be able to wrestle, and you might be able to build them to a point where they can do something for you.
I agree.
They have the experience of working the camera. They have the experience of, whatever, but I don't, I told somebody, I'd watch Brian Daniels or Daniel Bryan or whatever his name was in WWE for a long time, that I kind of forgot how well he actually wrestled and then he left and went to AEW, where he was able to do more his technical style.
Right.
And it's like, oh, wow, I kind of forgot he was that good. And so some of these guys, it's like, Well, I want to see. Are you good? Because there are other people who left WWE, and you kind of like go, okay, yeah, now I see why they let them go.
Yeah.
Half the AEW roster right now.
Cool. Yeah, who was that one that was supposed to be like the next Brock Lesnar?
Oh,
yeah,
Brodo. Exactly. His name was like Brodo or something like that.
Yeah, I don't remember either.
Bordeaux
Did Cain Vasquez ever? I feel like Cain Vasquez made the jump for a little while and then went away almost immediately. Am I wrong?
MMA, yeah, he didn't last long in the WWE.
Well, he when he premiered in WWE, he was already injured, so he had one 2-minute match with Brock Lesnar, went in for surgery, and then was released before he ever came back.
And now he either murdered or attempted to murder somebody for abusing his child, which is, I think, 100% justifiable. And free Cain Vasquez.
Freak, absolutely. We should make T-shirts. Parker, Jeremy says, is the guy's name you're looking for.
Parker Boudreaux or something like that.
Yeah. But he was one of those that a lot of people had a lot of belief in and a lot of stuff. And then, WWE shaved his head, kind of did him as a insane prison thing for Gacy or whatever his name was.
Right.
Somebody I don't see anymore and I'm glad about. And he was released. Well, how could you release somebody like him? And they're like, well, the word going around was like, well, he wasn't really developing in the back. He wasn't really catching on. Well, you're probably not using him right. They weren't using him right in NXT and stuff like that. So then he goes to AEW, where he's on Dark. So I watch a couple of matches on Dark, and then he even makes an appearance on Rampage or something like that. It's like, yeah, the guy actually isn't that good.
Yeah.
And you're kind of going, yeah, I kind of see why WWE let him go. He's not really, he's not really that good. And there are others who, are in Impact TNA now who we should all know who they are. And it's kind of that same thing. You kind of go, you know what? Yeah, I kind of see why WWE let them go.
When it comes back to Elias, he was a Northeast guy. I think he wrestled like Northern Pennsylvania, like Pittsburgh area. And I remember his gimmick being something like the heavy metal Jesus. I think done right, that could work in the NWA, especially if he was managed by Aaron Stevens.
Right.
But again, I don't necessarily have faith that they'll use him right. But I could see a storyline crafted where he could be something. And I remember being decent as an indie guy. Again, he wasn't super on my radar, but I remember knowing of him. And usually I only know people 2 reasons: if they're really, really bad or really, really good. Or not, so the fact that I knew him and I don't remember him being really, really bad is usually a good sign. I think he could be used.
Elias is Ezekiel's brother.
Well, no, I don't think they should bring in Ezekiel. I heard I don't think he will work. I definitely think if out of the more talented brother, Ezekiel was the Mike Von Erich of that combination.
Maybe he was.
I don't know Mace and Mansoor. Do you guys know?
He was from the Middle East, I think, from Saudi Arabia.
There's 2 guys there, right? Mace and Mansoor. I think they're a tag team, but honestly, I'm not that guy when it comes to WWE these days. Well, I feel like if I'm trying to remember who they are, they're not moving the needle anywhere.
Wasn't one of them like Shane Haste?
No, isn't Shane Haste from Australia? I don't know. All these NXT guys look alike to me. But all right, here's my thing on them. I don't really know about the NWA on them, but if they were a tag team and they're serious about being a tag team and they can go out and get some tag team name out there, I think they could rebuild themselves into something, especially because nobody really remembers them much in the WWE, that they could actually start fresh and build themselves up. Maybe go to Japan, maybe wrestle throughout the indies and try to really, if they are serious about making it, show up in MLW or something like that, or OVW and work out there. If they're not serious, then they just need to go away.
Haste was Slapjack, by the way. I knew he was one of those guys.
If you guys have both promoted at one point or another, and so if you're a promoter on the indies, and you see, okay, look, Elias has been released. It's 90 days later. He's local to you just by chance or whatever. Do you not want to promote him to as close as his Elias gimmick and name as you can? Like, I love the idea of bringing somebody into a televised show as a new character, or one that isn't their WWE character. If you're something like with the fresh start that you're saying, Jaden, if you're on the indies, do you want them to maintain that WWE gimmick so you can get the ticket sales from that?
Yes, you do. Because the people that are going to come see him, you got your regulars that are going to come anyway.
Yeah.
You got some people that are going to come just because they see it's wrestling and they think it's fun, and then other people are going to come because they recognize the name on the poster. There's one thing I always disagree with David Marquez with, is he's always like, well, if they were that big of a star, why do you put WWE in the poster? Putting WWE in the poster is the same thing of when you go to a bar or to a strip club or to a baseball game and they put Pepsi and Coke on the little banners. You're doing that for brand recognition, and you're doing that because it associates you with something successful.
Right.
It's not that they were like, you're putting it there in WWE, former WWE superstar, because you don't think they're going to draw alone on their own. You're just trying to create an association with something successful, so some of that success ambiance rubs off on your promotion.
Right.
But yeah, you do want to do it as much as possible, especially Elias. I mean, if I could have got Matt Cardona doing Zack Ryder right off of WWE television, that could have been licensed to print money. Now he has moved on and made his own name and everything like that. But immediately, right after WWE television, if Zack Ryder showed up at a dog event, I'm sure Dr. Zirconia would have been shit and gold.
Well, somebody should.
Yeah, please.
Mace was a former football player. And I guess he's wrestling as Mace Madden or Mason D. Madden on the indie circuit. It's either one of those names. And then, yeah, Mansoor was the Arab, the Saudi Arabian.
Yeah, I just threw up Jeremy's comment there. Maximum male models.
Yes, see,
I don't know if I'd use that gimmick.
I've tried to blot that out of my memory.
Yeah. All right.
I don't think that'll draw flies to shit, honestly, with that gimmick.
The biggest name, arguably, on the list, arguably the only one who might be able to move the needle a bit for anybody, Dolph Ziggler. Where do you guys see him ending up?
The problem is he's going to wrestle under his real name. No matter where he's going to wrestle under his real name. And while everybody will see him and know who he is, I don't think, unless you have a good image of him on posters, it's going to do something for anybody, unless until they actually see it. Now he's incredibly talented, but I can't see him ending anywhere up but being overpaid to go be one of somebody's toys at AEW.
Yeah.
Dolph Ziggler, he's currently 43.
Is he?
Yes. He's been around for
so he's about 20 years too young for the NWA. Gotcha.
Right. But look at this point in Dolph Ziggler's life, if I'm him, I'm going whoever offers me the most money.
Yeah.
Now, his brother's in AEW. Does that necessarily mean he wants to go to AEW or AEW wants him? I don't know. If I were him, I'd want to go to AEW, and I would hope they did not use me.
Yeah, pay me. Pay me and send me home.
I would like to sign a decent contract for 5 years and hope Creative has nothing for me. That would be my dream.
Well, even the people Tony Khan books, he has nothing for them. At least nothing good.
Exactly. And the other person that's that way is Shelton Benjamin. Boy, if I were him, supposedly a lot of AEW wrestlers want him because he's a very, nice, likable guy. I'd want the same deal. Yeah, I'll come in, make a couple of quick appearances, win, lose, it doesn't matter to me. And then I just want to go home and I want you to send me a check. All my life, I've wanted a job like that. Me, Devin Kent Mercer. I wanted that job. Someone to pay me to stay home.
Yeah. Matthew Underwood says Dolph Ziggler, Nick Nemeth, is going to AEW. He's in tremendous shape, hasn't been bumping like crazy in the last couple of years. I don't think anything signed there yet, but I would probably agree that that's where he's going to go. But
he's the devil.
He's the devil.
Yeah, Shelton Benjamin, honestly, if I was Shelton, I would probably go more the Matt Cardona route.
Yeah.
Because he'll be completely useless in AEW. Other than, he'll be brought in to showcase Tony's newest toy. But if he could, I think he could completely reinvent himself and recreate the wheel and really be something big the Matt Cardona wrote.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to be out there working, and doing something, AEW is wrong for both of them. But if your goal is money,
yeah, and
I'm going to use. Yeah. Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I was going to say Shelton Benjamin. I just looked. Is 48 now. I know he's in tremendous condition, but 48, you want to get paid, right?
Again, it depends because I don't think Matt Cardona would be making as much money now if he would have signed with AEW. He works his ass off for it. He's not my favorite wrestler, and I really hate the ultra-violent bullshit he does. But
yeah,
and some of the indie Gaga shit too. But the guy knows how to make money. He invests in himself and knows how to get himself out there.
Absolutely.
And I really believe he makes more money doing what he's doing than if he would have signed with AEW. I think that's what Shelton should do because I think Shelton would be the similar mindset. I don't know if he has the business acumen that a Matt Cardona has, and if he doesn't, he should ask Matt Cardona how to do it.
Yeah.
But I 100% believe that he could, until he wants to retire, make some decent money and make more of it being a free agent than working for AEW, especially because who knows how long that company's even going to be around.
Yeah, I probably should have prepared that Wrestlenomics report, which is like super fascinating about how much money they have lost. And just, I'm a guy who operates several budgets, and if I don't have unlimited funds behind me at work like he does, but you got to think at some point as a corporation that somebody, whether it's his dad or somebody with a brain, goes, okay, stop paying wrestlers $6 figures to work here and never use them. And you need to have labor cuts, and you need to have production, efficiencies, and
get rid of dead weight like Ring of Honor.
Get rid of Ring of Honor, or at least shelve it until you've got something for it, instead of making another title for it, which they just announced that Ring of Honor women's television title.
Because that's just what they need, more championships.
Yeah. Remind you of anybody?
Yeah.
Yeah, how many the NWA have now? 9, I think. Anyway.
Unfortunately, a lot of these people get the Dixie Carter school of professional wrestling.
Yeah.
Either from the money marking and stuff like that, or the way too many championships theory on that one too. And again, that's something I'll diatribe for hours about that.
Mm-hmm.
I love the Wrestlenomics thing, though. That's my class. I actually was going to do a report on it, but I was told I'm no more wrestling into my business class mix over. But it is very fascinating for me listening to that report, and I know it's all guesstimated because there's not everything out there is public knowledge, even though there is a lot.
Every company, yeah.
The fact that that New Japan Strong and their deal in Japan, they're not even getting paid for it.
Yeah.
To me, that's asinine. Again, it's very interesting at how much money they're losing and if they're even going to be around. But here's the thing: we're mentioning Shelton Benjamin. He is 48. The older you get, periods of time off make it harder and harder to come back and to be at top form. So at 48 years old, if he wants to actually be a wrestler, he can't go to AEW and not do anything, because once he does, he's retired. He'll never get out of that because he wouldn't be able to. Even though he's an amazing athlete and a physical specimen, it's so much harder the older you get to stop doing something. Hell, if I'm walking for a while, I'm fine. But as soon as I sit down, I get up. I look like Terry Funk in 2013 or 14 when he was still wrestling.
No, you're 7 feet tall.
Shaky.
I've met you. You're 7 feet tall. You're 6 feet 12.
Yes.
You're there with Daisy Kill Mercer. And he's back. He does not look impressed.
By the way, this is DK Smile.
All right, let's Rick Boogz. I don't know anything about Rick Boogz other than that he's got a hilarious last name. I don't watch WWE. You guys know him?
I know very little about him other than he's boning Emma.
Oh, well, Emma was also released.
Yeah. Convenient for them.
I saw Boogz a few times in WWE. Didn't like his early gimmick. Kind of later when they were making him into a strong guy or whatever, he was a little bit better. Again, somebody who needs time.
Oh, we got it wrong. It's Riddick Moss, who was also released. It's with Emma.
Oh, like I said, all those NXT people just like.
Moss was another guy who I've seen who, I mean, once they got rid of the Madcap Moss thing, he was looking a little bit better. I think several of these guys could develop into people.
Yeah.
I mean, I think several of them could, if used right, develop. I think they had the base skills. Their gimmicks were shit.
Yeah.
And sometimes when your gimmicks are shit, you have to go away. And, I was listening to what, Jaden was saying. And here's my thing with Shelton Benjamin. Shelton Benjamin wants to wrestle, then I agree with Jaden. He needs to be on the indie circuit. He'll probably make more money. And he'll probably do better. But at 48, the question is, does he want to wrestle? And, if he's not interested in wrestling, then, you sign the other deal and just see how that goes. And, man,
apparently, Rick Schnuggs was a collegiate amateur wrestler.
Which one?
Rick Boogz, I call him Rick Schnuggs. Should I give him his new gimmick name?
Yeah, possibly.
Rick Snot. He's Snot, right? But yeah, he was a collegiate wrestler, so that's more than I just found that out. That's more than I ever knew about him. If he could work that could be something the NWA can do. I mean, the whole Rick. I can't think of any more euphemisms or similes for boogies.
I like Scooby's suggestion. Benjamin and Charlie Haas at the Crockett Cup.
A, Charlie looks horrible right now. B, he doesn't even know the NWA exists.
Oh, why does he look horrible? What's going on?
He looks very skinny. Last pictures I saw of him.
But basically, another guy that's older, and I don't remember how old anymore. But he basically hasn't wrestled for a long. He's 51. He basically hadn't wrestled for a long time, and so he kind of stopped working out.
Right.
And he stopped working out. He still ate. He still looked fit, but he wasn't big. And when he made a comeback with Southwest Wrestling, and they put the title on him, and he looked like he weighed about 180 pounds. And he started gaining a little bit of weight and looking a little bit better. And then, of course, SWE, like all the places, bit the dust. And as far as I know, he's gone back to retirement. So,
I was a big Haas Brothers fan, though. Man, they were so good.
They were. Dana Brooke also released. Any thoughts about Dana Brooke and where they might end up?
When she... Good, DK.
I think she would make a good addition to almost any of the women's divisions. I would think probably TNA would be more likely for her.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, I don't know that she ever got the chance to develop right in WWE, but I think she'd be a good add to a women's division. Jaden?
I think she had a lot of heart. She tried really hard. You could tell she wanted to do this. I don't know if the WWE robbed her of that, but I think she wants to be a good wrestler. I think she wants to improve, and I've definitely seen improvement on her. If I was bringing her in, I would bring her in with Emma and maybe have them go after the women's tag belts, and then split them off later, and because how Billy likes to break up tag teams, and then work that from there. So I think she could be useful, but I think she's better off right now as a package deal with Emma to bring her in, and then then split off from there and see what they can do with her.
Yeah. There's 3 other names on here. There's Aliyah.
Yeah, next. No.
She should retire.
Dabba Kato.
He
I
should
don't
retire.
remember him.
General, whatever.
Commander Aziz, right?
Commander, yeah. He should retire.
And then everybody's favorite, Shanky.
He should retire.
I think Dabba Kato should come back as Elliot del Papashango. Nobody? You don't like that idea?
Oh, that I've heard worse booking. I've heard worse gimmicks.
That is true. Of course, they also came from Jaden, but that's not the point.
No, but seriously though, he's got a nice look. He has a look. If he could wrestle, he could be marketed as something. I don't really remember him, honestly. Very little I remember of him.
For number one, don't be called Shanky. It doesn't pass any name test anywhere, right?
He could be Shanky Two Dope, the next member of the Team Posse.
That's good. I like that.
Team them up with the clowns. They'll be down with the clowns.
Look, I'm going to be honest.
No, don't start now.
No, I'm going to be. I have to be. WWE and other promotions have not done well with giant subcontinent Indian wrestlers. And most of them, maybe an exception here or there, most of them never should be wrestlers.
The Great Khali, the drizzling shits.
The problem is
trademarked.
The problem is they bring in these huge guys like Veer, and they want to, they're giants, and so you're not kind of like a Moss, so you're not supposed to just be able to easily beat them, but they're not good, and so you don't actually want them in the ring making your talented guys look bad.
Right.
And
Is Talos in that market?
No, I don't think so. I don't think he's the drizzling shits, Talos. I think he needs.
No, I mean not used well.
Oh, not used well. Well, I think it's an easy spot for a giant to cross his arms and stand beside the little guy and while he mouths off.
But you always got to be careful with giants. There's a reason that Vince Sr. never kept Andre in WWE.
Yeah.
WWF. There's a reason that Andre was never anywhere very long, because what do you do with him? And that's a problem when you get any of the so-called giants in. What do you do with them? You put them in the ring with each other. They don't have the skills to put on a good match. You put them in the ring with your talented wrestlers, and they look horrible. And you put them, shouldn't they, the thing with Andre, especially when he was younger and more agile, the pre-83 Andre kind of.
Right.
If you put him in something, he should have held every title at the same time, including tag team titles by himself.
Right.
Because that's the way he was booked. Because how else do you book Andre? And he had to be able to go along with it. And so that's where, that's where some of the trouble is. And, despite his claims, Vince never really booked big wrestlers that well. I mean, Hogan was the best he got.
I thought he did okay with Stud.
Well,
His heel run.
Stud was already pretty well established elsewhere, but sure, yeah, it was the same character. Of course, Andre hated Stud.
Yeah,
he was a B player for me as a kid, Stud, right? Because of Andre.
Well, that was the problem with Stud was, especially after he started gaining weight.
Yeah.
Again, he kind of became a what can you do with him? He can only be fodder for Andre.
And Hogan.
And Hogan.
But the Machines, wherever they ended up being.
We never did find out.
No.
But you're right. It kind of means like you got to get a giant, not only just as an attraction and move them on, I guess, but also when they're young. Like there's some good big men out there right now. Big Ben Bishop comes to mind. I don't know where he is at the moment, but he's quality in the ring when it comes to a 7 foot tall guy.
And
Rolando.
A man so short he has to go up on his wife.
Okay, I wasn't expecting that one. It's true, but
I was expecting me to say it more likely.
Right. If it had come from you, it would have been like, yeah, there's Jaden again. But yeah, I wasn't expecting that one from Tim. All right. Well, now that my life's over.
Hey, you guys want to do, well, I know you don't want to, but.
Did you talk about AEW's financial?
We didn't, but I haven't pulled anything up for it. Have one of you guys got it handy?
No, I don't. This is why you can never believe anything that anybody ever says.
You're talking about, yeah, Wrestlenomics you're talking about right now?
Yeah. But it's like, even he doesn't really know. He's just putting what you kind
educated guesses.
Yeah, you educated guesses. But, who remembers that they were sitting there talking about how, AEW's plan was to lose money for the first 4 or 5 years, and they were profitable in their first year. And now it's kind of like, well, no, not really. They haven't really ever made a profit.
Yeah.
And so it's like, oh, wait a minute, which one is it? And you kind of go back and forth between those things. And I remember people telling me, they go, oh, well, TNA was profitable for a few years, when after Dixie Carter, or at one point during the reign that Dixie Carter had it. It was like, no, they weren't.
Yeah, I don't think so.
No, they said they were, and stuff like that. I go, well, and of course in accounting, because, you can have depreciation and different things, there are ways you can legally cook the book, so to speak. I go, but I know this much. I go, it has never brought in as much money as it has put out.
Right.
If you
not even close. Yeah.
If you look at the cash flows, it has never brought in as much money as it's put out. And I have a feeling the same is probably true of AEW. That whatever the situation was, being profitable, I doubt they ever brought in as much money as they spent out.
Yeah.
Ooh, that would be a good role for them. I agree, Willie.
Yes, and Tyrus could play the island.
Exactly. Exactly.
He could be the Chrysler Cordoba with real Corinthian leather.
Exactly.
Deep Ricardo Montalban cut there.
Yep.
He could also play the Starship Reliant. There's a deep cut.
Even deeper. Nice. Right? Yeah. Nice.
So I think we can all go home right now, right? Anyhow, yeah, I mean, I don't have the numbers. I don't know that I necessarily want to get into the numbers. I was just wanting to bring up the idea that we really truly never know. And I think one of the things that we talk about is you certainly, wrestling is a storytelling thing, so you certainly don't listen to anything. I remember one of the big things is everybody would always talk about how, oh, Magnum TA was supposed to win the NWA title at Starrcade, and
right,
no, he wasn't.
Yeah.
Oh, Dusty and Ric Flair have both said he was, and I'm going to believe Dusty and Ric Flair before I believe you. Oh, sure, Dusty and Ric Flair have also said that there were other plans at the same time. Ric Flair now can't tell his story that's true to save his life. He was saying Kerry was supposed to hold the title forever, and Rick had to win it back because Kerry was no showing title defenses. Never happened. He made every one of his title defenses, and he
all three of them.
Well, a few more, but yeah. Crockett wanted Flair versus Steamboat for the Medellins, and he had been booking that. That's why he never brought up the title change until after the fact, because he was still booking. He was still promoting that card with the, with that main event. And and Jim Crockett was saying one time, he goes, that maybe that was supposed to be the main event. He goes, but the money's in the chase. He goes, Magnum TA had never really had, he would wrestle Ric Flair here and there, but he never really had a program with Ric Flair.
Right.
He goes, and I think they were going to start the program.
Yeah.
So that was the deal there. So don't believe wrestlers or wrestlers thing, and know that despite the fact that Jaden's eating chips, that
you eating chips? Is that what you're doing right now?
Protein bar. Sorry, I'm starving. I'll put on mute.
What was my point? Oh yes, my point was don't believe everything a wrestler, and just know that wrestling, every promotion out there is probably losing money. And I remember saying one time, I go, every major indie is losing money. Oh no, Shakira makes money hand over fist. ROH is making money. You know, saying, well, yeah, Shakira make money until what's his name was caught bopping somebody other than his wife.
Yeah, if Chikara's making money, he wouldn't have needed to shut it down or change it down after he got caught with Hanaya.
Yeah, and his wife pulled the funding since she was the one backing it. And of course, ROH, I don't think it ever made money.
No, I doubt it. I mean, there's one company that's making money right now, and really only one that's been making money for a long time.
Right. And so it's just, people keep your hats on, keep your pants on, keep everything on, especially your pants. Some of you, I don't want to see anything. And it's just, don't assume anything. I doubt Billy makes money. I mean, I don't see how he can. I don't know how much he's spending to keep it covered, but probably not as much as a lot of the other people are.
Yeah.
Real quick, it's not an Ico Pro bar. I heard they're buried along with all the copies of E.T., the video game from the Atari.
Yeah, the Ultimate Warrior comic book collection.
Ooh, I want one of those. Hey, was there any NWA wrestling this week?
There was. We got a power this past week, guys. I know you don't want to cover it, but you want to cover it?
I didn't watch it because I tried watching last week and nobody talked about it. So
you guys need to give us power. Like, we'll recap the power for you, and then you guys can talk about the real stuff.
Honestly, I thought you guys did cap.
Yeah, honestly, that's what I kind of thought you were.
No. You thought. Look, we go. Here's 3 to 4 points about like highlights, but we don't do any of the rundown stuff that you guys are.
I assume by the time I get on, I'm hearing about the Booker man, and that it's already been covered.
Oh, no. See, here all this time, I thought you guys were really like hitting it, and that we were doing the highlights. That's why. Okay, wow. That's kind of why. Hey, question for you.
I blame
the women's TV title. Good move, bad move.
ROH women's television title?
Yep.
It's up there with the Texarkana television title for me in importance, except I actually like Larry Sweeney a lot.
Ridiculous move.
How long till there's a women's tag team, ROH women's tag team championship?
Just stop.
And then they need an ROH women's trios championship.
And an ROH women's pure wrestling championship.
Yeah. Well, if there's one thing that Tony likes, it's a new belt. And then to change the names of some of them.
I think what he needs to do is fire most of his wrestlers, and I hate to say that because it's nice to have a job, but he needs to cut a large amount of his roster and then find a bunch of marks and sell them all those belts, and he could fund like 6 or 7 promotions then.
3 ways to save money in business: cut labor, or in this case, talent.
So NWA Power, December.
All right.
2023. What happened?
Well, you had Mims and Draper opening the show in. Well, they had that video package first of all, right off the top. They love to kind of have Galley talk about what's happening tonight, and tell you that Mims is facing his tag team partner for the TV title. Just as a quick aside, does Witch, the song that they use for Power Now, does it work as a song for you guys? Like, do you like it? No.
I skipped that, so I don't even know, honestly.
Just the Power theme song. Anyway,
it's not Into the Fire, Demonetize. Sorry.
That was the best song.
That was the after that it just kind of went to. I mean, I kind of like. I don't hate to say it, but I actually like the most recent Smashing Pumpkins song that I heard. It's the only Smashing Pumpkins song I ever really liked. I think that should just use that instead, unless that's it.
Lou says, "How the hell did I survive my first 10 years as a fan with just 2 titles?"
I don't know, man.
It's crazy.
I remember when the WWE had women's titles, and they were talking about having too many championships in the WWF. When they only had the Intercontinental, the World, and TV, and they brought the women's and the women's tag out, and they were talking about there's too many titles right now in the WWF.
Yeah. Too many titles with a giant W on it, anyway.
Yeah, that's true too.
Yeah, I tried to forget about those days. So we had Mims take on Dak Draper.
We did. TV title match. Really kind of felt like the main event right up front. But as I was saying last night, you kind of like, I think the TV title match, I'm okay with it being first on, any episode of Power that it's on. But it was the best, probably the best match of this episode. They had that handshake to start where Draper kind of slapped his hand at the end, and it was a bit of a technical, strength-based wrestling affair. Draper did like 5 or 6 chain pin attempts in it, and he kind of got in Mims's face. Like, he'd push him into a corner, they'd break, and then Mims would step out to begin the circle, and Draper would get in the way. Mims would go the other way. Oh, you get in the way. And at one point, all the different moves and whatnot aside, Mims just gives Draper a shot right in the mouth, and looks a little dark, like he's gone pissed off. There's Dak ends up doing some kind of spinning back suplex, and Mims bails. And there's a 6:05, warning on this match, and he just stands outside the ring looking at Dak, and the time limit goes. Dak asked for 5 minutes more. Referee said no, handed the title to Mims. You watched the DK today. What did you think?
I mean, they've been hinting at trouble between Mims and Dak since they got them together.
What? They're breaking up a tag team? Really?
I mean, this was a tag team that was gotten together for the purpose of splitting them up. Now, the question is, as Snoop points out, is Mims turning heel? And it's hard because in the NWA, they turn him whatever they want him to be this week.
Right.
And so, Odison was a heel until he wasn't. Literally. And, I thought the match was good. I did think they used a little bit of ring psychology, which I thought was important.
Yep.
And so I do think Mims is developing that, it took me a long time to get this, and I'm not just going to let someone take it away from me. Now, that being said, I would have popped the guy in the mouth too.
Yeah, that was what I thought the best part of the match overall was just, you couldn't really read that he's turning heel as much as he's getting frustrated that his buddy's having his way with him for the last 2 minutes, right?
Yeah.
And gives him a shot in the teeth.
So, yeah, it was a good match. It was a good TV title match, and they look to be developing a story. Which anytime you can have a story, that's a good thing. Is it leading somewhere? I don't know. That's the question.
Can never really tell in the NWA sometimes.
Exactly.
What do you think, Jaden?
I didn't see it, so I don't know.
All right.
But I do like Mims, and I think Dak's actually underrated and underappreciated. So I think it's good that they're getting some focus and some spotlight and maybe doing something with them. So, and again, story is important. So yep. I like everything I'm hearing. I just don't actually know for personal experience to see how it was.
Scooby
and
says,
Mom's needs to be. At least my mom.
No nonsense. That's my mom.
My mom is no nonsense.
Mims, of course, Matthew Underwood says, I think he said your son Jack was 8 earlier. If they're breaking up, then I'm disappointed in their attitude, and that's just stupid. Excellent. He asked earlier, is Matthew's son, who the greatest world champion of the Attitude Era, the Lightning One era, was, and That list is fairly short, right? Tim Storm, Nick Aldis, technically Cody, Aldis, Murdoch. Who did Murdoch lose to?
Cardona.
And then
Murdoch
again after he vacated. Then Tyrus and what's his name now? EC3.
And so really they've only had 2 champions who they've kind of pushed as the champion who we're going to hang our hat on.
Right.
So I even felt like they did that with Cardona.
Yeah. And out of the 2 of them, I got to think it's Aldis.
Yeah. And so, so Aldis and EC3 are kind of the ones that they've hung their hats on.
Yeah.
And so going after, but we need storylines around the TV championship. TV championship needs to be something. So, and I do like Dak Draper. So I do think that's where that title should be and who it should be contested among. Right now, they have the TV title where it's supposed to be.
Right.
That's my philosophy. And then every now and again, we see Aaron Stevens and Blunt Force Trauma.
We do. We're told that the Fixers are gonna get a shot. I don't understand the thinking behind that, but have the Fixers had a tag team match in the last month or 3?
I don't know. And now the question is which combination of the Fixers, because of kind of
there are 3 of them, or 4 of them.
4 of them last I counted.
Yeah, 4 of them. That's right.
I'm sorry, but there's only one true Fixer, and his name is Vinny.
That's right. And he's already got a partner.
Yes, Old School Empire would beat them all.
So Kyle Davis was like, they're going to get the Fixers are going to get a shot. They've been on a roll and maybe been eating rolls at the local diner. I don't know.
I could have sworn the last time I saw them, they lost.
Yeah, like it's been a while. I got nothing against Legursky and Briley. They're great, but they haven't been around. I don't know why they get a title shot. Anyway, but that
I
was
saw Dr. Zirconium actually real quick mentioning on some really overweight dude dressed as a lobster, looking like he had a lobster 8 bastard booger. Was apparently trash talking Wrecking Ball, Legursky, and Hammerstone and other people. And I thought to myself, well, Hammerstone, Legursky, and Crowbar should make a tag team, call them like the Wrecking Crow or something.
Oh yeah,
because you got a crowbar, you got a Wrecking Ball, and you got a hammer.
The old Marvel villain trio.
Yep, that's where I stole it from.
There you go.
Pro wrestling steals from comic books, and comic books steal from pro wrestling. So.
That's true. They all got their power from that crowbar, didn't they?
Yep.
Yeah.
Which happened to be a Asgardian crowbar.
Oh, okay. Asgardian crowbar.
Only the unworthy can pick it up. Hey, I have a question for you about the next matchup.
Yeah.
So the next matchup is Brian Idol and Natalia Markova.
Yeah.
Against Camille and Latimer. Mixed tag street fight, although I don't know why it's a street fight. And I'll be honest, I do fast forward through things. And I do kind of sometimes tune out the announcers. I mean, not tune them down, just tune them out as they're talking.
Yeah.
Did they explain Brian Idol?
They did a couple of weeks ago in a way. In a very tongue-in-cheek way. They had Danny Deals go, he's the, I hear he's the identical twin cousin of Mercurio. And they had Galley go, is that right? Very dry. Yeah.
So they Patty Duked him?
Yeah, they Patty Duked.
Well, okay then.
Deep cuts.
And why was this a street fight, Tim?
Lazy booking.
They hate each other, man. Lazy booking. That's the answer right there.
Okay. I figured that was the answer, but I haven't watched every episode. I've watched, several, despite the fact that we haven't talked about them much recently because Jay is almost doesn't.
I watched one. You guys don't talk about it. I think you just do that to torture me.
Or gets interviews on or something like that, or decides not to do it because it's Thanksgiving, and Jay just has all these things that he would rather do instead of talk about power, which I don't necessarily have a problem with. But
I have a lot of things I like to do besides watching Power. Like,
yeah,
listen,
but then
going to the bathroom.
why did I watch it? But seriously, so they had the street fight. What did you think of the street fight, Tim? Was it street fighty enough for you?
No, it was garbage. Apologies to Noob and Co in the chat room right now, but not a fan. Don't like intergender wrestling. It was interesting only in the beginning where they introduced Camille as the insurance policy once again.
Was it intergender or was it mixed tag?
Anyone can fight anyone.
Okay.
It was a street fight, so it was an intergender street fight. So
what street was this? Sesame Street?
Well,
I didn't see a yellow bird, so I don't think so.
They fought on the stage. They fought in the aisle. That's as street fighty as it got. There was a part where Latimer was going to give Markova a pile driver on the stage, which I thought he should have. Like, this would have made it slightly more impactful than it did. She ended up getting tossed off, like not even tossed, kind of dropped. It was bad off the stage, to where there was this weird finish where three of them were on the top rope for like this weird triple superplex into a powerbomb thing, which could have been something and didn't come across. There's no gravitas to Brian Idol like right now, and I understand they're trying to feature him and build him up, but it's not there yet. But on the positive side, after that big move off the top, they give Camille, they kind of throw her the bone that even after that move, Markova can't pin her. And she does hit her with that beautiful destruction leg kick in the corner. Camille ends up going for the spear and misses and hits Tom. Markova gives her whatever she calls her double arm DDT, and she gets the 3 count over the brick house, which was the right finish if you're going to book this thing. But I did not enjoy really more than I didn't dig it.
Interesting role reversal. Usually Tom spearing Camille.
Right.
Well, in this days of equality.
That's right. What did you think, DK?
I hated it. I mean, just hated it. The only thing I liked was the fact that the right team won.
Right. The right team won. Yes.
But outside of the fact that the right team won.
It was what it was. Then they had this funny segment where EC3 was responding to Matt Cardona. Cardona the week before had said, I'm the indie god, I'm the king of the death match, you're the NWA World's Champion, let's have a death match. And this was the response. And EC3 said, you challenged me to death match. No, I decline. Instead, we're going to have, and I did this last night, the ultimate match of death. The screen kind of shakes and the audio is ridiculous. They're going to have something called an ultimate match of death. The only thing about this, other than what that was, he was carrying the OVW national title with the 10 pounds of gold, which I think is a good move.
I don't.
You don't?
No.
Did you not watch this last week? Or last time when we talked about it?
No. He should never hold anything other than the NWA World Heavyweight title.
Yeah, I understand the perspective, but I like it in this case because of OVW's, I would assume, elevated status through Netflix, The Wrestler's Show.
Then they should show highlights of it. He shouldn't have the championship. They should show highlights of anything that he does with OVW.
Yeah.
But he shouldn't hold their championship. You don't hear anybody going for the AHL, oh crap, what's the cup called? And you don't hear any of the Stanley Cup champions going after the Calder Cup.
Right.
You know why? Because the Calder Cup's the minor league, and then the Stanley Cup is the big gold. And I did this because you're Canadian. Figured you'd understand it most. But yeah, you don't see that. You don't see somebody's like, all right, I won the Super Bowl championship. Let me go after the XFL championship at the same exact time.
Right.
You know, if you're the pinnacle of this sport, then you don't go after a stepping stone. It's fine to hold all the stepping stones at 50 times if you want. You can hold the OVW national title and the NWA national title and the IWGP, whatever title they happen to create that's stupid named or anything like that. You can hold them all at the same time. Hell, I don't care if you're the NWA national champion, the OVW national champion, the MLW national open weight title, whatever. If you're the world's championship, you don't. If you're having filet mignon, you don't go out and eat some corn chips with it.
Yeah, I get it. Now you're hungry.
Yeah.
I want the filet mignon. I mean, I just wolfed down a protein bar.
Look, I don't know what an ultimate match of death is, but if the suggestion is a death match isn't good enough, then this suggests to me that something shitty and hardcore is going to be coming out of this this match. I don't want to see that.
Unless somebody actually dies.
That's what Scooby said. It's unless someone dies, it's being billed incorrectly or however you put it.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
It should be the ultimate wrestling match. One counts. I don't care. Something's, it's actual
One
wrestling.
count. 5 count.
nah, that's Bundy.
Yeah.
Bundy, yes. That's sack of shit.
The ultimate match of death where you come out and you blow yourself up shaking the ropes and then you die after your appearance on Raw. I don't know. It's stupid.
I'm worried it's going to be like something, silly like light tubes and tacks and.
All right, fans.
Yeah,
if they
right.
do light tubes, remember that that stuff is radioactive. Call a lawyer. Call Stephen P. New, because that stuff is radioactive. And if they're dumb enough to do it in a condensed building with that very toxic powder and the gases that have come out from it, call a lawyer, sue them, and maybe somebody will own the NWA that won't be doing cocaine spots and stupid deathmatch garbage. Get a lawyer, sue.
I agree.
Southern Six do a segment with Kyle Davis in the ring. They harken back to what we lovingly call Cocaine Gate, with a light chance of snow joke. I don't know. I thought Alex Taylor was getting much better than he has been in the past. Kerry Morton feels like he slipped to become the Buddy Roberts of this group. And Thrillbilly, just like the standout here. They made a joke about Kerry as the son of Robert Gibson. I thought it was pretty amusing.
He kind of does look more like Robert, now that you said that.
Yeah. And then the miserably faithful interrupt. Sal's doing his a gimmick called Salvation now. I mentioned this the other day, but I don't know if you guys ever played the Far Cry series, but he looks very much like the father. They said Koresh on the thing. I thought it was much more Jim Jonesy. The glasses, the white suit and all of that stuff.
Just please drink the Kool-Aid and get off my damn screen.
That's right. Jim Mitchell basically gets on the mic and says that they're better than the Southern Six because they can take bumps without hospitalization like AT. And then he he suggests that he's going to offer whatever in his pocket to Kyle Davis so they can have a good time together. And Kyle just kind of, I think, scripted wise, says, "I don't want anything to do with that," and the match gets underway. Did you skip through this, DK, or did you suffer through it?
Oh, I suffered.
Yeah, well, then
you suffered.
You said suffered some more. What did you think?
and suffered. You know what? First of all, don't do insider jokes.
Yeah.
But they don't work. Second of all, if you're going to do insider jokes, don't do insider jokes about cocaine.
Yeah.
Don't. I've never understood this need of, people are bitching about it. Let's keep bringing it up and making fun of it and bring, real glass.
Lean into the stupid. I don't get it either.
Yeah, I mean, let me sum up this episode. You could have stopped after the TV title match, and you would have been a happier person.
I'll give you the Jeremy patented.
Yes, modern wrestling. Yes, modern wrestling is stupid.
Yeah. So the match, and then I'll kick it back to you to comment, because there is a match. Sal, I got to say this, man. I try to find a positive somewhere. Sal, I thought, looked better in this match than he has looked in the NWA since maybe 2019. This was like, he's older and he looks a little more out of shape right now, but this was closer to ROH Sal than anything I've seen in the NWA for a long time.
I remember when Jay realized it was Salmonaro was Sal the Pal.
Yeah.
That was Kevin.
Was it Kevin? Okay, I know somebody.
Kevin, we said something about Salvatore. I remember him. I knew him.
It was weird, and I didn't know if it was supposed to be comedy where, when he started off and was doing the series of moves that he did to Alex Taylor, he then does the exact same series to Kerry Morton when Alex tags out. So I was like, is this comedy? Maybe I'm just not getting the joke, but Thrillbilly destroyed gags like it should be. They left Judas out on the apron for the entirety of the match, almost the whole thing, which they should have, because it was clear that they're going to try to, give him a push. And in the end of these things, I'll just skip to the end. Judas does give Thrillbilly a choke slam in the center of the ring. He's the first guy to really manhandle Mason, but Kerry ended up covering gags, I think, after a thrill ride for this. But to put the Southern Six, did it just serve the purpose, or would you not have bothered, DK?
I don't know what the purpose was. It was just,
I think, to build up the Thrillbilly Judas match.
Yeah.
No, because I don't want to see it.
Manhandle Mason is the name of my band.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to see that match any more than I would have before. They've done such a bad job with Judas. It's hard to build him up for something like this. And you can't have him in the same ring then with
a couple of jokes.
Yes. And unfortunately, and everybody knows I'm not the biggest Kerry Morton fan, but they are well on their way to turning Kerry Morton into a joke after having him be their champion for so long. And it's just like, I don't know. I don't understand their thinking. And by there, I mean Billy's.
Yep.
I just thought of a positive.
There's a positive?
Yeah. The same positive that that made the Iron Sheik positive is also what's in James Mitchell's pocket. How can positive be bad?
You bail me out, Bubba?
Can you pick up gimmick? Sorry. That's insider.
That was it. That was Power. That was
That's a shame.
Sounds like a power loss.
it wasn't great, but like you said,
I was hoping there was a power. And I don't understand, Tim, why is it that sometimes they can put on such good shows? Why is it sometimes they look like, oh, they are really heading in the right direction? Or they're making, they're doing simpler shows and maybe there's not a lot happening, but you kind of see development and, where they're going. And you start getting excited for like, hey, maybe they're turning the corner here. Maybe they're and then they put on this.
Because they get in their own way. They're self-destructive.
I mean, I wasn't thrilled with last week's episode, but compared to this week's episode,
it feels sometimes like if you ever watched a show that you really like, and then you're like, wow, that episode really, didn't hold up, for what they've been doing so far, and you find it's a different director. But this is the same director. I don't get it.
Maybe it's the quality of the gimmick. Maybe that's the problem. Sometimes the gimmick's a little better than others.
Yeah.
Do you remember? Anybody out there remember the TV show Bones with?
Oh yeah. With Angel there and
Angel and the other Dash Channel sister.
Yeah.
And my ex-wife and I started watching it in its third season. And we watched it up through about season 8. And I don't remember how many seasons it went. Maybe it went 11 or it went more than it should have, that's for sure.
Right.
And I know this because we never watched the last 2 seasons of it. And it's like sometimes we went back and watched the first couple of seasons, and reruns and everything like that, and they were fine.
Yeah.
But by the end, it was just like, because every season could have been its last season. And there was one season they thought was going to be its last season, and they ended it beautifully. A beautiful ending. And then it got renewed. And they came back. And one of the characters wasn't going to come back, so they killed him off. And it was just like, I think I got about 4 episodes in, and I was like, I'm done.
Yeah. It's like West Wing when Sorkin stopped being allowed to write there.
Yeah, it was just like, I'm done here. I don't need to see anything else. I don't want to see anything else. And so...
But I don't understand it. Like, as I get how, as a fan, television would work around wrestling, you have a set number of episodes where you can carry that storyline forward. It should be laid out for you for weeks to come. Why are we just suddenly getting, like you said, a bit of garbage in the middle of something that can be decent? I don't know the answer.
Right, and it's just like, I don't know.
I don't know.
Billy's not.
I know the answer.
But
armchair bookers have enough money to buy the promotion. Heck, that happens with independent wrestlers. Tax refund promotions out there.
Well, I've always said Billy isn't so interested in a successful promotion. He just wants what he does to be successful. Because he's not out there getting the best ideas and the best thoughts and, doing this. It's me, it's mine. I'm going to do it all the way. And, finger salute to anybody who doesn't agree with me. And, everybody told me in music that, if I had listened to them, I wouldn't have been successful. So, dude, this isn't music. And, not everybody is skilled in everything.
Right.
I told somebody, I go, look, even today when it comes to like, IT, your programmer's not a hardware expert. Your switch guy isn't somebody who can necessarily fix your printer.
Right.
There are different skill levels just in that one group. And so, and I certainly don't think that I would take, a programmer and make him an accountant.
Right.
And Billy's like, oh, I'm going to do what I want because that's what I did in music and I was successful. Well, yeah, but you can't do what you want as an accountant. You can't do what you want as a wrestling promoter, booker. I mean, and by the way, booker and promoter are two different roles.
Right.
Maybe he would be a good promoter. I don't know. He's not a good booker.
Agreed. Like the most successful wrestling company in the world,
UFC.
Yeah, couldn't open a rival sports league to the NFL. I mean, just it's a different job within the, a related industry, but it's not the same thing.
Or a boxing promoter, or a bodybuilding promotion,
Bodybuilding
or a restaurant owner, or
yeah. I went to the WCW, the Nitro restaurant in Las Vegas when I was there, and there was no. Pardon me?
Intentionally, or did you lose a bet?
Well, no, I was in the mall that it was in, and I'm like, oh my god, look at that! It was empty. There was not a single soul in it.
One of the things that's always quoted in business class is so many people copy Apple because they're successful, but nobody knows why Apple does what they do to be successful. And I think that's what the situation is here, is he thinks he can copy what he did in music because that was successful, but not actually probably even realizing why that made him successful. And that the fact of what made him successful there doesn't mean it's going to make him successful as a wrestling promoter or anything else.
Lou says in Billy world, convoluted equals clever. No one has the balls to tell him differently. And I think
also
you could
write a song that makes absolutely no sense and be successful. It's a lot harder to write a wrestling format than write a wrestling show that makes no sense to be successful.
Right.
Well, and I don't even agree that nobody has the balls to tell them, because there are people who've told them they don't last long.
Yeah, they don't work there. That's the thing, right? They don't work there anymore.
Well, I mean, that's what happened with Josephus.
Yeah.
Joseph Hutton. He basically told Billy that he needed to change the way things were and what they were doing and things like that. They fired him.
What somebody needs to do is find out what pictures. Excuse me, I'm just having trouble talking. What pictures Dave Lagana had on Billy Corgan to be able to give so much power over him?
He's very emotional about these pictures. It's all verklempt now.
Yeah, but what did he have over him? What blackmail did he have over Billy to be able to get him to do at least somewhat logical?
I think just for whatever reason in that relationship early on, Billy trusted Dave. And then I don't know. That's one of those things that I don't know if it would have changed over time if what happened hadn't happened. But yeah, I don't know. Even they say that once they got to power, Billy started getting more and more and more and more involved. And that started causing problems.
Yeah. It is what it is. And it's another episode of Power in the Bag. And I think we've exhausted our talking points, guys. You want to get out of here?
Yes.
First of all, I just want to talk about how great that shirt is.
By the way,
isn't this great?
I am off tomorrow, and I have big plans.
Sleeping?
Sleeping.
Very nice. Very jealous. It's my last day for 2 weeks tomorrow. So I gotta work though. What's happening with Dr. Zirconium and Dog, Jaden? What are we going to see in the future?
Well, the no trade clause for the holiday is in effect right now, so you're not seeing anybody being signed to Dog from any of the people being released.
Right.
But I do know there is a lot of talk, and hopefully things working out. I'm probably going to spill the beans, and I'm probably going to get in trouble. But I know there's something. We got the 2 events coming up for both Rowan University and the Rowan College of Burlington County. There's also stuff working on for a historic baseball arena, baseball stadium that I can't talk about much, but it is something really, really cool if it comes out into fruition, and it looks like it is, but until it does, I don't want to say anything. Okay. And then there's a possible state fair that there's being worked on, and I know there's things on Dr. Zirconium's bucket list that he'd like to do, and I know the baseball stadium is on that bucket list, but I know another one he really wants to do is he always wants to promote an event in a mall. So he's been working on that, even though it's been less than successful.
If that ever happens, I want to see Dave Dahl doing the PJ Hawks off the balcony.
If he threw him off the balcony, he'd probably fall all the way through down to China.
Yeah. There you go.
Why would you do that to a ring?
In a ring, first of all, it'd be the floor. It'd be like the Hollow Earth theory with Godzilla. All the way down to Peking, China, or something.
Where do they find Dog on the socials?
I don't have a clue. Go to dogprowrestling.com and it'll take you everything.
There you go.
That's DAWG. And that'll take you to the Instagram. I don't know. I don't understand these social media things. I'm an old guy that doesn't yell at clouds yet. Give me time. You do yell at people get off my lawn, though.
What about you, DK?
Oh, I yell at clouds. I yell at people to get off my lawn. I yell at people for breathing. So I yell a lot. It's what makes life fun and exciting. If you have any interest in my socials, you can look for DKMFWTX, although you'll probably be disappointed because I really don't post much about anything anymore.
If you want to see DKM smile, though, send him booty pics, especially of Yannick Garcia.
I don't know who that is.
Oh, look her up. She's the Mexican weather girl from heaven.
So
there you go. Well,
and you know, apparently Tim has a pretty good relationship with his wife because I heard he got laid at one of the events.
That's true. It took me a second. I'm like, what? Yes, you're correct. I got that. Dr. Girlfriend gave me that. That's Cole Loxamana's partner there.
The one with the voice deeper than his?
Yeah, it was pretty rough.
First time I heard her talk, I was like,
yeah.
You're one of those transitioning people?
And on that note, good night, everybody. Alliance-wrestling.com, your number one source for news and information for the National Wrestling Alliance.
Buy some shirts.
Great shirt. Speaking of great shirts, dogprowrestling.com. I don't think you sell this one, but there you go. And gentlemen, thanks for letting me hang out with you. I appreciate it. Someone screenshot that right now. So until next time, we'll see you at, where's my camera? At the match.
Thanks for joining the stream. This has been a presentation of Alliance-Wrestling.com. We genuinely appreciate your support. Would you consider subscribing so you'll never miss a future episode? I'd also like to remind you we do a live stream every Tuesday at 5 p.m. before NWA Power. You can find us on social media at The Alliance Blog. And until next time, we are The Alliance.